Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's our story. Dear Ollie, I made a contribution. I'd like to remain anonymous, and I'm still debating on whether or not to expose my narc ex. The only thing holding me back is the fact that he threatened to kill me at one point. I never thought I'd be the type of person to end up in this situation again, after having endured physical and psychological abuse and neglect through most of my childhood. But it just goes to show you how it can happen to anyone. I met my narc ex on a dating site, and I was really fascinated by him. We hit it off pretty quick, but when it came to meet up, he was hours late, which I let go. He also started love bombing me right away, telling me about how psychic told him that his next wife would have my color hair, etc., etc. On his profile, he said he was in his 30s. When I saw him for the first time, I could tell he was in his 40s. About a week or so later, he slips his birthday to me, and I realized he's much older than that he told me. When I confronted him about it, he said he had to do that because no one his age could keep up with him. Yeah, right. He was 48 and 20 years older than me. I would let that go too because I foolishly believed him because he was an example of good health, plus he worked out a lot. The first major red flag happened when he asked to move in with me. We had only been dating for a couple weeks, and naturally I was apprehensive about it, though I was agreeing maybe it was good. When he noticed that I was uncomfortable about it, he asked me, and I told him how I truly felt, that it was too soon and I didn't really feel comfortable about it. We ended the conversation, and I could hear in the tone of his voice that he was upset. So I called him back and asked him what was wrong, and that's when he blew up at me. He told me I fucked up and told me how stupid I was. He said he was going to use his rent money and give it to me to help pay my mortgage. He proceeded to scream at me for about 20 minutes about how stupid I was and how I fucked everything up. I was shocked, in tears, apologizing. He told me how egotistical I was because I was too concerned about how people would see it. I didn't even say anything about how people would see it. I realize now that it was projection on his part. He is extremely egotistical and liked to constantly accuse me and others of being so throughout our entire relationship. Yeah, he'll project what he is onto you. He was softening you up for this blow up. This blow up is calculated. It's not, the rage isn't real because he had this planned out, this blow up. I realize now that it was projection on his part. Okay, wait. I tried my hardest to put myself in his situation, and I generally thought I had done something wrong. But it was difficult because who gets angry over something like that? It was a really big step in our relationship, not one to make lightly. He called back and apologized, and I forgave him, thinking he was just really hurt because he wanted to make a commitment, and I just figured it wouldn't happen again. But in reality, it was just a taste of things to come. Yep. Right there, he knew. You let him know by doing that he can get his way. He was softening you up and testing the waters. It was all calculated. It was all part of his plan. He needed you. You didn't need him. He's probably setting you up to soft pimp you. We continued to see each other, and he spent a lot of time at my house. But when he was there, he started lecturing me about different things. When I did something he didn't approve of, we continued to see each other, and he spent a lot of time in my house. But when he was there, he started lecturing me about different things. When he did something he didn't approve of, like washing my toothbrush the way he wanted, for example, he would go on for hours, no joke, hours about it. So just in order to avoid his lectures and his talking down to me like a child, I would just end up doing whatever he wanted. He lectured me about what to buy and how I spent my money. He lectured me on how to clean and liked to call me messy. At one point, I was mopping the floor with a towel on a broom because he thought it was a better way to mop the floor for some stupid reason. I also was not allowed to use my brand new dishwasher that I was so happy to get after going most of my life without one because it didn't clean good enough. So I was forced to do everything by hand. The first time I broke things off with him was when I grabbed my steering wheel when I was driving, nearly getting us into an accident. He was trying to tell me how to drive, and I was patiently waiting for traffic to clear. So he figured he would just grab my steering wheel when I started pulling up, causing us to swerve into the other lane with other cars behind us driving by. Luckily, nobody got hurt, but the other reason is that while we were shopping, I froze up in the middle of the aisle at the store. You see, one of my coping mechanisms that I learned as a child was to freeze and say nothing when my stepfather started screaming at us. Growing up, we were not allowed to speak or even express any emotion when my stepfather was around. If you cried or spoke out, you got beaten even worse. It has led me to not be able to process or express my own feelings effectively and freezing up when I get scared. When this happened to me at the grocery store, just examining a box of cereal, worried that my boyfriend would start lecturing me about getting it or not, I knew something was terribly wrong. Then the steering wheel thing happened, and I knew I needed him out of my life as soon as possible. I kicked him out, and he went back to his apartment. You have to understand that I am a single mother of a disabled daughter as well. His father is a sociopath. Her father is a sociopath who got me pregnant on purpose, then abandoned us when I was 7 months pregnant. He also told me that he was going to have 20 kids and didn't care who he had to get pregnant to get them. It was at that moment I realized he was a psychopath. Then he made my life a living hell for the first year of her life. Seems I can really pick him, eh? So my self-esteem was already in the toilet, and I was looking for a relationship and a father figure for my daughter. I suppose I was desperate, but at the same time, I thought he was helping me in some way. So I texted him back a week later to see if we could work things out. Really stupid on my part, I know. I didn't expect him to respond, but he did. He said he spent 3 days in bed not doing anything at all because he was so broken up about our breakup. Yeah, right. It made me feel really bad. I'm sure that was a complete lie now that I look back on it. Yeah, it was, and he totally was expecting you to call him back. He wasn't shocked. He was waiting for it. Before we broke up the first time, he lost his job as an aircraft inspector. Since he was not able to pay for his rent anymore, I invited him to move in. He also said that he would work on his controlling nature, which he didn't. Things only got worse. I ended up doing all of the chores, cooking and working, while he worked on his projects and spoke with people on the phone. He was a professional astrologer and spiritual advisor. So people called him for help, mostly for their relationship problems. How ironic. But I noticed sometimes he fought with his clients too. He would get angry when he felt he wasn't being respected in some way. He was also controlling with them as well. I felt that some of his advice was crappy because he encouraged the wives to be more submissive, even when their husbands were already overly controlling, instead of encouraging equal discussion with both partners about their feelings. He just always sided with the men. It seemed like our relationship was a roller coaster ride. One moment he'd be kissing me and cuddling me, and the next moment he'd be flying into a rage over nothing. I kept thinking that since he was Colombian and English was his second language, maybe there was just a communication issue. I tried to put myself in his situation to see if I would be offended or upset if someone had done the same thing I did, and for the life of me just couldn't. It took me a while to realize that it wasn't me who said or did anything wrong. Normal people just don't react like that. And it's funny you say he's Colombian, because Colombian Latino men are known for, in their late 40s, 50s, going after younger women, and because they want to latch on to a younger woman to take care of them, because that's what they want. He also started to forbid me to talk to my family or friends about us. He would also take my phone and look through my messages and phone calls to see if I called anyone. He said that I was too negative and complained too much to others about our relationship, as if he knew somehow. I was only allowed to look at the positive things in our relationship and just ignore all of the abuse, because normal couples fight and that's normal. I couldn't figure out how he would know what I was talking about to my friends and family, but I realized he knew what he was doing and was just trying to isolate me. Also, my friends were low class to him, and he didn't want me talking or hanging out with them. That was a no-can-do for me, because I only have a couple of friends. I'm a loner by nature and careful about the friends I choose. My best friend and I had been through a lot together. I was there for her when she lost her baby due to an unfortunate accident. She struggled with years of depression from it, and I was always there to support her. So there was no way in hell I was just going to drop her over a guy. He also didn't like my pets. I had 2 cats and had to keep them outside. One cat disappeared, and he said if I so much as even tried to look for my cat, he would leave me. That's what he'd like to do. Threatened to leave me because he knew it upset me, and he knew I would comply. I eventually lost the other cat, and that was even harder on me because I was more attached to that cat. It hurts me even to this day to think about it, and I'm really angry at him over it. He actually let me post flyers for her and look for her, but I never found her. The day I lost her, he was also fighting with me over something completely ridiculous. Yeah, he killed your cat. That's why he let you put up flyers. I think the first one probably ran away and he wanted it gone. The second one, he let you put up flyers because he knew it'd never be found. I was in such an awful state at that point that I was abusing painkillers. I popped a pill and took my daughter to a Mother's Day event downtown. Before that, I asked him to join me, and he was all for it. But the day of the actual event, he starts a fight with me. Go figure, just like every other holiday with that monster. Well, because the pill I took and how hot it was outside, I fainted at a booth trying to get some snow cones. The paramedics came, but I told them I was okay enough not to go to the hospital. I called my boyfriend at the time about what happened, and he expressed what seemed like genuine concern. But that didn't stop any of the fighting, and I don't think he felt bad for me in any way. Throughout the last half of our relationship, I was in a drunken, drugged-up state just to numb out the emotional pain I endured from him. At one point, I broke things off again because I was simply tired of the abuse. Most of the entire time we were together, he didn't have a job. He was able to keep a job for 1 or 2 months during the entire time we were together. After we got back together for the second time, he hoovered me back in this time. I caught him cheating on me through some text messages, emails, and messages on dating websites to other women. He played it off like it was no big deal, but he also told me that it was my fault for kicking him out with nowhere else to go. It was my fault, even though he kept it secret. He was somehow getting back at me. They'll always figure out a way to pin it on you, as ridiculous as it is. He swore up and down that he wasn't sleeping with anyone, and it wasn't just all for games, whatever. Before I caught him cheating, he was still going through my phone and checking all my messages. One time, he found some really old messages from an ex-boyfriend of mine, then confronted me and said that I was cheating on him with this guy. I laughed and said that was a couple years before we even met, and I just forgot to delete the messages. Well, that didn't stop him from flipping out. Then I asked to see the messages. He had my phone still. He deleted them. How convenient. I told him that he couldn't prove that I was cheating if he deleted the supposed proof with all the timestamps on them. But he swore up and down that he remembers the dates and they were like last week or something. Bullshit. That was a flat out lie. The truth is he was projecting. No, the truth is he was fabricating evidence. That's all he's doing. Look, the type of narcissist he is, he's always looking for evidence to hold against you. And if they don't have the evidence, they'll manufacture it. This is the type of guy who's always looking for evidence to use against you. And once he has it, it's going to be constantly used. Like, he's 48 years old going through your cell. Like, what is this? It's ridiculous. He was cheating on me. Shortly after that is when I found the messages on his phone to other women. It was the only time in our relationship that I took his phone and made a huge stink about it. And he made a huge stink about it, of course. But he was at liberty to take my phone, delete messages or whatever anytime he wanted to. He also spied on me when I was talking on the phone. One time I caught him when I was in another room. He was standing right outside the door listening. He would also get in my face and start screaming at me, pointing in my face. He was very scary and intimidating because he was a really strong guy and used to be a bodybuilder. He knew it scared me, and that's why he did it. One time I got tired of his shit and slapped him a few times when he did that me yet again, screaming in my face in a threatening manner while putting me down and telling me he was going to leave over something stupid again. I guess I just lost my shit. He then grabbed me, shoved me on the bed, and wouldn't let me up for a while. It was the only time I physically retaliated, and he liked to throw that in my face a lot. He even told his friends about it, making me out to be the crazy abusive one. I think he was just trying to get me to explode like this whole time. My daughter's sociopathic father did the same shit, but my narc ex was a bit more covert about it. There were a couple times he did get physical with me, though. One time I was about to leave after yet another blowout and was trying to call my father to let him know I was coming over. He then grabbed me and took my phone away. I tried to run away to my room, but he grabbed me and shoved me down. I tried to get away again, but ended up in the closet, and he wouldn't let me out, and he wouldn't let me have my phone. He then proceeded to lecture me for hours. I just lied there and had to listen to his psychotic monologuing. He eventually let me out of the closet, and I asked him why he took my phone, and he grabbed me and cornered me like that. He said he was concerned that I would call the police and that I would jump head first out the window and hurt myself. Jump out of the windows? Had he lost his damn mind? We live in Florida and my house is new. We have hurricane-proof, double-paned windows. There's no way in hell I would try to jump through a window like that. It was the most idiotic excuse I ever heard from him. That wasn't the first time he physically restrained me, though. He also liked to boast about whatever little thing he did. He frequently called himself the master of whatever thing he was doing, whether it was mechanics, computers, or what have you. When he did something that he was proud of, anything at all really, he would rub it in my face and say, "See, I know things. No one else could do that, blah, blah, blah. Aren't I the greatest, blah, blah, blah." It was so annoying. Who the fuck does that? people who are trying to prove their value and devalue you. People who are just stockpiling evidence. And if they don't have the evidence, they'll manufacture it. If there was something that I couldn't do that he could do, he would rub it in my face too. Like he was saying, look how much better I am than you, sort of thing. I think he was also intimidated by my intelligence. And even though he said I was the smartest girl he ever dated, he frequently called me stupid throughout our entire relationship. It was hard to believe any time he complimented me when I called him out for calling me stupid all the time. He denied it and said that I was just interpreted it wrong. Well, telling me that I'm not using my intelligence or whatever is pretty much calling me stupid. He just liked to fancy it up, and I think it was just a gaslighting tactic. He also got angry at me one time when we were having sex and I was on top of him. I guess I wasn't moving the way he liked, and he said, "You're a nerd in bed," in an angry voice, throwing his arms down like a child having a tantrum. I was so shocked and hurt by that, I got up immediately and left and went to the kitchen and sulked and cried. He never came and apologized. Who does that? Who fucking does that in the middle of lovemaking? Sure, I'm a nerd, but goddamn, you don't have to insult me while we're having sex. Yeah, he's a child. He's an entitled child. And he said it to you because he knew he could get away with it. He knew it would hurt you. I'm sure this letter is getting really long, so I'm going to end it here and may write back again with more later. I'm going to attach a pic of what finally made me decide to go no contact. I'm not sure why that was the final straw, but I was just looking into narcissism at that time and was making the connection. And this message from him really drove home the point. Thank you for everything you do, Anonymous. And let's see the pic. I'm trying to find it because there was a problem with that's not it. Bear with me, everyone. No, that's not it. So the file came in corrupted originally, so hold on. Ah, there it is. Sorry. Alright, so this is the message. Hey, does the compressor have a warranty? It stopped working. It's not holding a charge. You mean the air condition? Yeah, no worries. I'm going to go ahead and replace it. Okay. Mona's for your info. The word is hey, and a person of my caliber is disrespectful. Are you serious? He's a dickhead. He's a dickhead. So he needs to fabricate, like what he's doing is he's just fabricating evidence and fabricating his persona. This is the type of narcissist he fabricates everything about him and everything about you. It's all fabricated. If they don't have when the narcissist doesn't have the evidence, they'll fabricate it. Bottom line. So, thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I hope that helps. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, a Facebook chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general, help keep the lights on, the rent paid, and keep these videos coming and keep everything going, because that's great too. You know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. And if you're still unclear, wait for the instructional video link to pop up on the screen at the end of this video to walk you through all of that. If you're not seeing it, make sure your pop-up blocker is off. Please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance.